Hi, I'm Kara, life coach, wife, and mom to 4 incredible and unique children. It wasn't all that long ago that my son received a diagnosis that had my world come crashing down. I lacked the ability to see past the circumstances, which felt impossible, and the dreams I once had for my life and family felt destroyed. Fast forward past many years of surviving and not at all thriving, and you'll see a mom who trusts that she can handle anything that comes her way and has access to the power and confidence that once felt so lacking. I created the Special Needs Mom podcast to create connection and community with moms who find themselves feeling trapped and with no one who really understands. My intention is to spark the flare of possibility in your own life and rekindle your ability to dream. This isn't a podcast about your special needs child. This is a podcast about you. If you are a mom who feels anxious, alone, or stuck, then you are in the right place. Welcome. Hello and welcome to the Special Needs Mom podcast. In this episode, we are going to explore Nikki McIntosh's life story, mission, heart, all of the things. And there were so many times in this conversation that I felt like we come across something where I just felt so connected and I related to her experience, and it just was like so refreshing. And I think there's this, experience about being with someone when you're kind of constantly saying, me too, me too, me too, that it almost has the experience of like giving you all the evidence that you're not alone. And it's one thing for people to tell us that we're not alone, but to hear another mom's story and to come to the conclusion ourselves of, I am not the only one doing this. I am not alone here. I found, again, to be very hope-filled. And yes, we talk a lot about our book. And if you're listening to this live, it launched yesterday, September 23rd. And if you're not listening to this live, great news. You can still go buy it. And of course, the links to go on Amazon or all the places you can buy books will be in the show notes so you can easily access it. It's a beautiful book written by a beautiful person with, again, I feel like hope is the theme that I walked away after I got to review the book. And let's do a little bit more formal introduction because we want to be professional here. You know what? We're a professional podcast. Let's give a professional introduction to Nikki. So Nikki McIntosh is the founder of Rare Mamas, a resource and community dedicated to empowering mothers of children with rare diseases, and the author of the new book, Rare Mamas, Empowering Strategies for Navigating Your Child's Rare Disease. Through her platform, the Rare Mamas Rising podcast, Nikki provides strategies, strength, and support to mothers navigating similar challenges. See, just like what I said. Her mission stems from the profound need she felt after her son was diagnosed with a rare disease, fueling her with passion and purpose to offer a lifeline of hope and connection to other rare moms. So let's welcome Nikki to the show. Nikki McIntosh, welcome to the Special Needs Mom podcast.
Thank you, Kara. So happy to be here with you today.
All right. Well, this has been a long time coming. We met, I don't know, what is it? We decided like 4 years ago, and gotten to see each other since then, but thrilled that essentially we're going to get to explore your story today. And that's going to be the emphasis of our call. But before we jump there, I guess jump back in time, I wanted to get like kind of a snapshot, a day in the life of like you now. So kind of where you live, who you live with, like what's your life look like now? And then we'll kind of maybe do a little gander to the history of your life.
That sounds good. Well, so happy to be here and share my story. I live in Southern California. My husband and I have 2 sons, Mason, who's 15, and Miles, who's 13. So the day in the life looks like chaos, like most of our day in the lives. My younger son is in 8th grade. My older son is a sophomore in high school. So we're navigating middle school and high school and activities and physical therapy and medical appointments. And I straddle 2 worlds with having one child with a rare condition and one child that is not affected. And so I'm kind of living both and trying to live a life of joy and hope and purpose amongst all of the challenges and obstacles. And so I think we're like a typical family in many ways. And in many ways, we're not like a typical family.
I think that highlighting this part where you're straddling both worlds, I personally relate so much to that. And it's interesting because it's the part I think that it brings me such joy and delight and also so much grief. I'm thrilled to be supporting my oldest son as we're like, right now we're in like making our college list and doing kind of like this like next part of his life. He just turned 18 and he's got a pretty great life. And so that's so fun. And I think also it magnifies for us. This is part of my story. It magnifies what's missing for Levi. He wants it. He longs for it. And so I think it's been a unique part of our stage of the journey. Sounds like you resonate with parts of that.
I can relate to that so well. Yeah. It opens your eyes to, kind of both paths and how they are similar and how they're so different. So yeah, you're so excited for, parts of it, and there is grief for other parts of it when you recognize the differences or, typical maybe rites of passage that one your child won't be able to experience. Yeah. So it feels like straddling two worlds always.
Always. Okay. Well, let's expand on the worlds that you are navigating, that you're straddling. And I actually want you to take us back to the time before everything shifted, maybe when you were living in a singular world. What was like for you before you entered the world of rare disease parenting?
Oh, blissful and naive.
All the things that you hoped it would be, motherhood, right?
Yes. So my husband and I, we were married for 5 years before we had our son Mason, and we were working and traveling. And, then we got to the point where we were excited to expand our family, or start our family, I should say. We had our first son Mason, and, you come in just like so many of us with all these ideas of what parenthood is going to be and what your journey is going to be like and how you want to raise your children and the hopes and goals for your future. I think, we were living kind of I'm sure a story that many can relate to, just, working parents, raising a child, thinking about expanding our family and trying to just, give our first son all of the love and opportunities. And he was just actually a toddler when my second son was born. So yeah, that was life before working. I had a career in advertising and marketing before I stopped working. My husband, we've, just both kind of managing life with careers and a kid. That was that was life before.
Well, when I was looking at your website yesterday, actually preparing for the episode, I was like, wow, this is like so beautiful and so good and all the things. And then I saw that you were in advertising and marketing. I was like, okay, now at least it makes sense.
Thank you for saying that.
You have professional level here. I was like, okay.
It's funny. It's funny as I never thought I'd be using it for these purposes, but yeah, all that I guess is coming in handy in this stage of the journey too.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well, then it sounds like a very typical, blissful, lovely American life with everything going well. And then,
yes,
there was a moment, or maybe a series of moments, that you started a whole new journey. So I'd love to hear a little bit about what that looked like for you.
Yeah. So my second son, Miles, was diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy, which is a rare neuromuscular disease, degenerative, at 18 months old. He was just basically missing milestones. He had hit them all up until that 18-month point, or actually about the year point, when we noticed he wouldn't pull up onto his feet to stand and take steps. And we knew what the milestones were because we had my older son. And so we started down the road of testing 6 months to get that diagnosis. And then that's where everything shifted, because we were not expecting a rare diagnosis. No one in our family had ever been diagnosed with this genetic disease. We'd never heard of it. And then, and then our world kind of went upside down, fell apart, and we lived in that kind of shell shock state for months. But yeah, there was no time to stay there. We had to get busy just getting everything into place for our son. And so we kind of dove into just that search for answers and next steps, and completely overwhelming emotional stage of life. And that was, we lived in that place for years while we figured it all out.
Yeah. And as I hear your story, I think I'm reminded of my own, where actually my two first boys are about 2 years apart
Okay.
and 21 months to be
Oh, yeah.
specific.
Mine are 22. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. And up until when Levi was 2 years and 3 months, we were living a very typical life. We had no known understanding that we would be living a totally different life, come August 7th, 2011.
Yep. There's the date. These dates we'll never forget.
No. We actually, and because right now, obviously, we're recording this in August. And so we've just hit some of those milestones where we think back, like it's been this many years. And, we celebrate a tumor termination day, which was the day of his first surgery. It lost a little bit of its power when we had like more and more and more surgeries. Like then the one surgery didn't feel like celebration worthy. But needless to say, we do try to do something special. But
I love that.
What I was kind of going to share is like that there is it's almost like, I don't know, there's something about having had the experience of your son, experiencing him on a typical journey.
Yes.
And then not.
Yes.
That I think for a mother is, I don't know, like I can say it's excruciating, and I can say that it's maybe even disorienting because, and I don't know if this was the same thing for you with Miles, but it was unclear exactly how much we were pivoting or not pivoting in the early days.
Yes.
And I know that you had some pretty crushing early news, as in this is a life, well, at that time, it was a life-shortening diagnosis.
Yes. It was the number one genetic cause of death in infants. That's the words we were told. Yes.
The words that came out into the room, into your ears.
Yeah.
And so when you think back to those moments, what do you remember thinking about or wondering about the most?
In the diagnosis moment, or
in the early days, as you were understanding how your life is taking this whole new trajectory.
It was such a wrestling match in those early days of coming to terms and acceptance. I remember early on just truly waking up those first days after, those first weeks after, waking up every morning and just remembering that my son had a rare disease and just falling apart. That was I'm tearing up now talking about it. That was the feelings at the beginning of how can this be? It was such a cruel diagnosis. And how could this be? Because those moments before were so clear that, it's so full of happiness, so full of joy, a typical baby in all other respects, except for some of those missing milestones. And so it felt unreal. It felt like, how could this be? And so, but I couldn't sit in denial. He needed so much help so quickly. While struggling with all of those emotions, it was forward steps. There was also a lot of thoughts of, and I'm sure this was, maybe my naiveness at that point, like, this is not happening. Like, not denial, but I will not allow this. Let me fix it. There were a lot of let me fix it moments too, right? Like dove into, I think those feelings, those mama bear feelings. I wanted to fix it. And so it was that duality of just being completely emotionally wrecked, but also diving into advocacy right away because I wanted to help my son and I wanted to fix it. So it was weird. I knew I was falling apart inside, but on the outside, you might not have seen that because there I was making a zillion calls and going to all the things like so many of us, right? Because your child needs you.
Yeah. If you can look back at yourself or maybe even like ask the people around you in those days what they notice about you that maybe you weren't yet able to see or admitting, like what can you look back and see now that you couldn't see then?
I went inward a bit at that time, meaning I wasn't prepared to have lots of conversations with lots of people about the specifics of the diagnosis and what it meant long term. I mean, I think a lot of people wanted that answer. What's the prognosis? They wanted to understand. That was that question, that looming question. What does this mean? What is the prognosis? And those were answers I didn't have. And so it really illuminated how much I needed to learn, right? All the answers I didn't have made it clear, oh my goodness, there's so much I need to figure out for my son. And so it made me go inward and not wanting to have those hard conversations. I wasn't ready for them emotionally. And so maybe the outside looking in, it would be like, I wasn't coming out to get the mail, in those early days for fear of running into a neighbor and them asking me how I was doing and how is Miles doing and what's the next steps and, questions I didn't have answers to, right? So,
or I think that questions, if you shared the actual answers, would create maybe more of a conversation than those people were willing and ready to have.
Yeah.
I think in the early days, I think people would ask how we were doing. And I would want to actually answer the question. And I think I was desperate for someone to hear what we were going through. And then I realized, oh, they were actually just doing the whole like, hey, how's it going kind of question.
Right.
And I was going into like really
drop the bomb,
sharing my soul with them.
Yeah. Yes.
and I was like, okay, I got it. Not the time and place, Kara.
Right.
Oops, daisy.
Right. Exactly. And that's how I kind of felt too. Like, did we really want to have this conversation over me, like getting my mail out of the mailbox? No, maybe not. Right. You're probably just getting home from work and just trying to check in.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but yet I think deeply we want to still be known in all of that. So you transition from, this dance with not necessarily denial, but kind of denying the predictable path that this would take, as in you were kind of fighting against essentially what the doctors told you would happen. And actually one thing when I was reading up about you yesterday that a line that I just was like, oh, I love it, is that you shared that your inner fighter was awoken.
Oh, yeah.
Even the way she says it. See, you guys can see this fierceness. Yes. So tell me a little bit about what that experience was and like what part of you this tapped into.
This just tapped into my, I guess, fighting underdog spirit. I don't know. And it just was growling right there the whole time. I mean, it was not, I'm going to lay down and accept this. It was a guttural, I don't know, just instinct reaction. And I think that was so just that fierce, love of let me save, this is my child. I will not allow this for my child. And, so many of us have this, and I'm so thankful that we do, because I think this is why how moms, go on to do like what you're doing, all the advocacy you do, and to help others. And, people are starting organizations for their, to help their child's disease. And this is that I will not accept that answer. And no, I will fight for my child. And that fighting forward there's a lot of great outcomes that come out of that, out of ignoring the, what we're told. So I'm glad we're stubborn and we don't listen sometimes, because there's a lot of good that can come out of that. But for me, yeah, that was kind of an instant reaction.
Hey there. I want to press pause on this episode's conversation for just a minute to tell you about something that I don't want you to miss. On October 14th, the doors to the Pathway to Peace coaching community are going to be opening back up, but only for a few days. I'm changing the way that I run it, and this has been successful in creating the rich community that I have promised. This is the space I created for moms like you, holding so much, often for everyone but themselves. Inside the membership, you'll find live coaching, real conversations, non-judgmental spaces, tools you can actually use, and most importantly, community of women who actually and truly get it. But like I mentioned, here's the thing. Enrollment only happens a few times a year. If you've ever thought, I need more support, I need connection, I need a place to breathe, this is it. Go sign up for the waitlist today so that you don't miss it. When you're on the waitlist, you'll get all the details first, plus reminders, and of course, any promotional goodies that I might throw in there. Again, the doors open October 14th, and head over to the show notes where you'll find the link to the waitlist. Look for waitlist in all caps. You won't miss it. I can't wait to welcome you inside. Actually, what's funny is after I record this with you, I'm going to be recording an episode with a friend who I used to work with in a totally different industry.
Mm.
And one of the things I love about her, and she got to witness in me, is how much trouble I got myself into because I will not accept this answer. As in, no, it does not work for me.
Exactly. I'm not going to accept your no.
And it's something that I love about myself, but I do also recognize I'm joking that I got myself into a lot of trouble, but I did truly actually make a lot of people upset. And I know people are surprised to hear this because I seem really nice now. But people were like, "Oh, you maybe." I was like, "Yes." I gave people bad dreams, is what I did. They told me.
That's really funny.
And I was
would
like,
never
"Well, I
guess
still
that,
think that's
but
kind of your problem,
that's
not
funny.
mine." But I'm looking forward to reminiscing with her.
Yeah.
But I guess there's this part as we kind of focus in on this part of you that became ignited or even became more fully alive. I feel like it's actually one of the things that I think I can say that I love about having gone on this journey is that I feel like I actually got to figure out who I was. And so, do you think you knew to the extent at which you had that inner fight before you embarked on this particular journey?
Yes.
You did. I was like, she's like, I knew it already. Tell me a little bit more about that.
I think that's just, part of my personality. If anything, I have to temper that little inner fight of mine. That's more of my personality. So it's just,
she's like, she was just waiting to come out.
She was
waiting
to come out. This was just reason to unleash her. But just definitely in a much different way because when it's on someone else's behalf, it's much different. This felt right. This felt like the most meaningful reason to unleash that fire and light that fire.
Yeah, definitely. I think so many of us will fight harder on behalf of somebody else than sometimes we even will for ourselves. And I actually personally think that is the beauty of motherhood, is that you can see how rich and how deep this love that we have for these children goes. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
I want to kind of go back to, we talked a little bit about the early days and about how you kind of were called to transition from the devastation kind of to determination to figure out what to do next. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that part of your story, as I know that you and your husband successfully found I don't know if it was in clinical trial, but a treatment that was in trial for your son, which ultimately then became FDA approved and now is a treatment.
Yes.
And so walk us through that time in terms of like who or what showed up to kind of, mentor you, guide you, and help you navigate this whole new world. And again, kind of tap into that determination to find the answers.
Well, I would say that one, we're very fortunate. We had the diagnosing neurologist tell us about the patient advocacy group, the leading patient advocacy group for our child's rare disease, spinal muscular atrophy, called Cure SMA. So we were one of the fortunate ones, right? That were handed, here is a group that may help them, right? So that doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
And there's not always a patient advocacy group either. We learned that later. And then we obviously now feel very fortunate that there is one for SMA. So right away, we plugged into the Cure SMA organization, and that was a wealth of knowledge, support, care protocols, and they were leading a lot of the research. And so they made us aware of the research that was going on. We were digging around on our clinicaltrials.gov and kind of, doing our own research as well. And they kind of told us, informing us about the trials that they were funding and supporting. And so we dove in really quickly with fundraising for research. That kind of became quickly our advocacy efforts, because we believed that they were, they had some things in the pipeline that were showing some promise. And so once we learned about it, we kind of dove in, learned everything we could, and tried to decipher what we thought was the best avenue for our son. We found the clinical trial that we thought was, showing promise. We researched in depth, and we fought really hard actually to get him into the trial. And once he was enrolled, it was a blind study. So it was placebo controlled. We didn't know if he would receive the drug or not, or the placebo. Pretty quickly after being diagnosed, we were pretty certain he was receiving the drug, but we wouldn't know for sure.
Mhm.
But because we saw some of those SMA causes muscle weakness, we saw some of the weakness that he had lost being restored. And so flash forward 2016, it was the first FDA approved treatment for SMA. So it's been a ride. It has been a ride from those early days of that diagnosis. No treatment, no cure, progression, inevitable degenerative disease, and number one genetic cause of death in infants, to the viability of a clinical trial, possibly a treatment, and then it getting FDA approved. And we were just on the ride for all of this. And now it's FDA approved. Our community, is being treated. There are 2 other FDA approved treatments for SMA. Is more in the pipeline, more coming. So how many emotions did I have through all of that? Probably every single one of them that could be had, because it was such a ride, a
Yeah.
roller coaster of emotional ups and downs at each different point of that journey, right? You put your child in a clinical trial, you have questions, you're hesitant, you have trepidation, it's so many unknowns. You wonder if you're making the right decision. The path is unclear, and then for it to be viable and then make it all the way through trials to FDA approval, then we're celebrating approved treatment. We know what that means. We know how rare that is. We know how many, trials fall out of the process.
Mhm.
And now to be seeing our community and the difference it's made in our community just since the time my son was diagnosed and he received treatment. And now these SMAs on the newborn screening panel. And so babies are being diagnosed and treated within the first 30 days of birth. And the outcomes are they're so profound. It's such a joy to see how far we've come. That was a really long answer. But it's been a really long ride.
I think what really is highlighted is you use the word roller coaster, and it's up and down and up and down, hope, and I don't know what word we use for the down, but
unknown
and fear.
Yeah, fear.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hope and fear and hope and fear and hope and fear and dancing in that, and it's not are you going to get this job, right? Like that kind of hope and fear. It's ultimately, is your son going to live and or be well? These are not trivial roller coasters that we're riding.
Yep.
And not everybody does have the fortune of having the FDA, backed drug that they get, right?
Yes.
So some of, many of you listeners are going to, not yet be there. And so living in the back and forth, I don't know how this is going to go, but I do know enough to know that it could go quite poorly. I mean, that's a lot for a mother, for a family, for a society, for a culture to hold. Yeah. And I think is where I think about being parts of communities, whether, it's the rare community, whether it's special needs community and or the combination of the both of them, of being able to be with people that hold that, not necessarily with answers, but hold that and can say yeah, I understand. I'm there with you.
Yeah.
And that could be so helpful.
I know this, the significance was not lost on us when how rare it is for, a treatment like this to get FDA approved. And we know what it meant for our community. And we also know what it means for the bigger rare disease community. And we feel it's important to share our story because we want the bigger rare disease community to have hope and to know, what can be. These, parents of children with SMA years before my son was born lost their children to this disease and stayed in the fight, advocating and championing and fundraising. And my son is the beneficiary of all of that work, those years of work. And so, I also feel the same, I guess, duty to do the same for the next generation patient, not just with SMA, but in the rare disease community.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I do see in different spaces, I see those parents who are bereaved parents doing the same thing. And it is really, it speaks to, I think, the extension of love that they still have for their child, of that, serving and saving other people from what their child had to suffer. I think it's these things obviously tap deep within us. So, there's this roller coaster that you're still on, right?
Mhm.
Like, it's not
Every
like
day,
this is
living it
not
every
like
day.
not like, oh, okay, everything is back as it was back when you had these darling, baby and 2 and 3 year old.
Hmm.
What do you feel like has shifted in you during this essentially death of your old life, rebirth of your new life? What do you feel like has shifted or grown or changed as you've taken this ride?
I will say what's changed is I no longer feel the need to make my life fit in a mold that it doesn't fit. I can accept and find beauty and joy in our life as it is. And
Mm-hmm.
that I remember when that shift happened, it was pretty profound because trying to make my life fit in these molds that we maybe have, that we see around us in our communities and our schools, whatever, these different areas that we find ourselves, places we find ourselves. It's so difficult, right? Because our path is different. We have to do things differently. And so trying to make it fit and trying to make us, mold into these places, it's exhausting. And so I
Mm-hmm.
remember the point where it's like, I just really don't care anymore to do that. And I don't really care how everybody else feels about it. I want to serve my family and I want us to be able to find our joy and our happiness and our connection despite all of this. And if that means everything looks different, that's okay. So I think that came, with time and time sheds perspective. And so I think that was one thing at the beginning. Maybe I was trying to, make it all work and
Like kind of
fit.
hold on to the typical life
Yes.
experience, it sounds
Yes.
like. And
Yes.
then you had to recognize, I have to let go of that. Like it's not fitting. It's like shoving something and almost like it was like a reluctance to really embrace this new life
Hmm.
that you now have. And it was like, had to let go
Yeah.
of that you were holding on to.
Yeah. And I think at the beginning, it was just not knowing that there was a different way to do it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just that we learned along the way. And so we were still trying to enjoy our life and do all the things and have our happiness and find our joy and, our time with our family. And what we were trying to do it in outlets or in manners that maybe were more typical and that were difficult because of that. So this was opening our eyes to new ways to do those things, to have that same meaning and joy and happiness, but just in different ways.
Are there any ways specifically that you would share or that you can think of off the top of your head that kind of what that actually tangibly looks like?
Well, sometimes we would say yes to going to certain things. I'm trying, only try and think of an example. I don't have a good one off the top of my head, but just for example, if going to an amusement park with friends is normally what, another family or something is maybe what people do for fun or, that sounds exciting. But then when you actually go there and you realize it's really difficult to do, right? Because it's a crowd of people and my child's in a wheelchair. And so we have to wait in a different line and do the thing different. And it, may take longer or we're exhausted. We're trying to keep up. And then at the end of the day, you go, was that even fun? Did that even bring
Mhm,
any of us
mhm,
happiness or
mhm,
joy or, deeper family connection, which is what we went for, right?
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
Maybe not. So maybe
mhm.
that's not where we're going to find it. Maybe we're not going to do that thing that might be on most people's, fun list for the summer or something. Maybe that's not it for us, right? Even,
Yeah.
even we live close to the beach. So even going to the beach is not easy for us. My
Mhm.
son is in a wheelchair. So navigating a beach is not. And that's hard because we live so close
Yeah.
to one. And that is what our families do here for fun. But a pool is great. A pool is great for our
Mhm.
family. And my son loves to swim and he can, and he's weightless. And it's actually like amazing for him, body, mind, and spirit. And when he's swimming in the pool, he's pure level and he's one of the kids. So there it is. Okay, that's what it
Yeah.
looks like for our family. So maybe we're not going to the beach, but we're going to the pool, right? And that's just a silly example, but that's it. Finding ways that fit and actually at the end of the day do bring us joy.
Yeah, and I think when I hear this story, it's like grieving that the beach doesn't really work for your family.
Mhm.
I'm not quite ready to let go of the beach yet for my family. Levi doesn't love that.
Yeah.
He would much prefer that we let go of the beach, but that's neither here nor there. And all
But
right, so
you
that is
understand what I'm saying. You can relate, though.
oh, 100%. Well, and I think part of it too is that Levi once loved the beach. It was a place
That's
because
hard.
water is a place where it supports him in a lot of ways, more when he was littler than now. But I think there's part of my husband and I wanting to fight and advocate for him to restore parts of him that have declined,
Yes.
that we hold on to hope that don't have to stay declined.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's part of like, okay, like if we keep going to the beach, if we
Yeah.
keep at it, we'll get back.
Right.
And so it's still like, I'm like, okay, it's not ready to let go of that. It's not ready to say, okay, that chapter's closed. But I do say this with humor is like, but Levi, again, would prefer that we close that chapter and just go to pools.
You have the rest of your family to think about too. So that's hard,
Exactly.
right? Yes.
Exactly.
The straddling.
Exactly.
The straddling.
It's the
Yes.
straddling. And that's why I took myself to the beach all by myself the first day when they went to back to school last week.
I did the same, all by myself. I'm at the beach by myself. And
it's
it was
so
glorious.
great because the listeners of the podcast will know. Well, if you're not a new listener, I shared the story and okay, I don't know if you probably didn't hear the story. Out in the water, I encountered another special needs mom that I had met at a retreat a few months ago. I know. Amazing. Out in the water, right? You know how this works, right? Like there's a million beaches you could choose. We both chose the exact same beach. We were out there literally having fun in the waves in our own ways. And we're like, wait, we know each other. And then we actually said, how many other moms do you think there are like this? And I said, not a lot. I think it's just you and me.
You have a water
But
meetup.
but you were up there too. Maybe a
was.
different day, but
I was.
I actually did think to myself, I was like, this could be a great, like, just get the moms out in the water. Like, and I know not every person loves the water, or the ocean, but I am a lover of the ocean.
But you know what? You did find a way to get to the beach, and I found a way to get to the beach, right? So it might not be the family outing for me, but I went by myself. And so that's just like finding other ways, right? So for me, it was, okay, this may be not what we're doing as a family all the time, but I still love it and I miss it. And same thing, I find the ocean soothing and just the whole atmosphere is a place of peace for me. And so I still need to incorporate that into my life. So that looks like, I go maybe by myself when I can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so same thing, I think of like, okay, camping with my family. Like we were the camping family. Like we love a good REI run by gear that we don't probably need. But, we're still figuring out how to make that work for our family.
Yeah.
We always talk, we actually just camped this weekend, so that's why I think of it. But always thinking of maybe if we get a trailer to make it easier for Levi, maybe this, maybe that.
Right.
And so it's like finding ways to make it work. Or, maybe it's like, hey, let's divide and conquer. We do a lot of dividing and conquer and having certain people that are more interested and able to do other things. And then there's some great answers found there. And then there's a lot of grief that comes with that because ultimately I would love all my family to be together and my family would love that too. So
same.
It's an important part of the story, I think, to share because I think we're all simultaneously experiencing it and navigating it together. Okay. So as you find yourself here today, one of the things we're going to talk about is your new, almost released book that is coming to life or has come to life. And you share a lot of this in your book, but I just kind of want to give a moment to highlight like what you carry with you now. Like what are the gifts, the lessons, the thing that you would most give to others if you could that you have benefited from in navigating this journey?
I think being on the road a while now, I see that there is a clear choice of what I allow to come from this. What do I allow to rise out of this journey, or how I choose to carry it? At the beginning, it didn't feel like a choice. I was just fighting, fighting for my son and fighting for survival and fighting for answers and treatments and all the things. And now there's negative and positive things about your character that you will see affected, right? obviously the stress levels are through the roof. They still are. And you could quickly go down a road of despair. You could quickly, live a life with anxiety. And all of those are often just reactions that we have no control over, right? This is just our bodies, minds, heart's way of, reactions to the situation we're in. But I think now that I've been on this road a while, I can look and choose how I want to react to all this and what I want to carry with me. I don't want to carry the stress around and the anxiety around, though I do. I don't want that to be who I am and who I become. I don't want to be a martyr. I don't want to become all about my son's rare disease. And so I'm choosing to look at the other parts of my character that it's cultivating. It's cultivated a lot of patience. That's something I did not have before. And it's cultivated a softness in me, and which is so funny because you hear me talk about the fire and the fighter.
Mm-hmm.
But the flip side of that, it's cultivated a softness in me too. And so I can choose when to use one or the other. So I think now it's basically that I'm choosing what I allow this to bring from me, what I want to spring from me. When someone meets me, what do I want them to feel from me? What do I want to radiate? And that is warmth and love. And that's more important to me than anything. And so I think as time has gone on, it's come like there's a choice that's clear at some point, of what you're going to carry, how you're going to carry it.
Wow. I love the way that you were able to articulate that. And the words that come to my mind as I hear kind of essentially, if we're going to look at this before and after, is like where you started was a victim of what happened, a victim of the diagnosis, that you had no control over it. There's this martyr, like I have to, it has been done to me. And then you've essentially evolved to be able to have a vantage point of this thing happened, but I have a choice in how I engage with it and who I am in relationship to it, which is essentially, it's like you restored the power within you. So like this inner fighter has been kind of exponentially strengthened because it's doing it from this place of empowered choice, not from kind of a reactionary, I guess, kind of like a victimized kind of place. So,
yeah, I would say I always felt, I never felt like a victim per se, but I did feel like it had the possibility of bringing out in me qualities that I didn't like, right?
mm-hmm.
Qualities like, anxious and without hope and grieving. And though I've had all these pieces at maybe at different points, it's not how I want to live my life, right? That's not the overarching endpoint. And so it's nice to see that where you can start doesn't have to be where you stay.
Mm-hmm.
And that, you can see both right in front of you, and then you can kind of choose, how you want this to affect you and how you want to live your life despite it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's one of the themes that your book highlights. So let's talk about your book a lot bit actually. And so your book, I think one of the major themes is this hopefulness. And I can't recall the word specifically. Do you recall how you describe your relationship to hope in the book? Do you remember?
Oh, there's a lot of hope stuff in there.
I know. I was like, I feel like, well, without the words, obviously it's a major theme. So for the video people, it's called Rare Mamas, Empowering Strategies for Navigating Your Child's Rare Disease. And it's a pretty meaty book. This is not like a little 100 pager. Like it is really full of goodness. And
thank you.
So I want to give you the opportunity and the platform to share about it and to have you share a little bit about the writing experience. What was that like for you as you took on this project?
The writing piece of it, I actually loved, which was so surprising to me because I never wanted to be a writer. I had never had some goal of authoring a book. I had a lot of goals and a lot of dreams and a lot of creative outlets, to be honest, but writing was not one of them. So it really surprised me that I enjoyed the process of writing so much. But I think it really came from those. I wrote a lot when I was by myself in the early morning. And I think before my kids woke up. And I think that it was very therapeutic. It was time to process a lot of my feelings. It helped me write a lot of my story on a page. And so there was healing in that for sure. And the thought for the book really came because when Miles was diagnosed, as I finally I stumbled, trials and errors, challenges, obstacles. I feel like it bumped up against all of them. And I kept wondering why it wasn't easier, because I know other moms that had gone before me had done the same. And so why are we all having to kind of reinvent this wheel? And so I just started writing, I wish I know when Miles was diagnosed. And I thought at some point maybe I could share that with the people around me at the PT office and, others in my community that I met. And then I had a hard time stopping writing. It kind of, when I got to a point where I thought, I think that's all I have to say, then I didn't. I had more to say. And every learning, I put it in there. Everything that I wish gosh, this took years to figure this out. I wish I would have known this, at the beginning. We need to know this at the beginning. I just kept writing, and it kind of became this, hopefully a guide with strategies that someone can use, tips, tools, kind of how-tos. And then my story is peppered all through there just to share this. You can hear that someone else has gone through a lot of these similar things and what I learned from it. And I just wanted it to be a real source of strength. And I wanted it to be a source of sisterhood, so that when somebody read it, they felt that they could relate. And it's all neat examples of others, going through it and how they handled it. I feel like other moms and other parents are often the best sources of information, right? And we obviously need all the guidance of the talented specialists and researchers, but that peer-to-peer, this is actually what helped me in the grind and the daily, this is how to apply it in the day-to-day living. And this is what you're doing, Kara, with serving, your community. And so it's just that peer-to-peer support that I feel is so important. So that's what I hope the book is. I hope it's a source of strength. I hope it's a source of support and sisterhood.
Well, I would say I haven't gotten to read it page to page, but I've jumped around here and there. And I feel like it is that beautiful compilation of your story, but also this deeper wisdom. And, you bring your faith into the story as well, but also don't exclude people that don't share your same faith. And I just feel like really, it truly is like this very hopeful, hope-filled book. And I think what I want to encourage listeners is that it feels very helpful at any stage. So I could see it being so helpful in the early stages, which is kind of where you wrote it for. But I feel like for someone like myself who's been at it a while, I feel like it is so valuable to look at other perspectives, to other stories, to help maybe notice where we've gotten stuck or where we might need more support, or when, maybe some of the strengths that you have, the inner fight in you that has accomplished something specific that maybe we don't have that strength. And so we can kind of lean on your wisdom and vice versa. And I just feel like I want to encourage people to pick it up. And yes, it's for people with rare disease, but I think it would be very applicable for anybody that has a diagnosis that's impacting their life in ways that rare disease does and many other, forms of disabilities do. So thank you for sharing it. And it comes out which day?
It comes out on September 23rd.
Okay, September 23rd. And what do people need to do to purchase said book?
You can find it on all the platforms, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, bookshop.org, any various indie retailers, anywhere you get your books, you'll find it.
Okay.
Yes, and thank you for sharing.
And are pre-orders available?
No pre-orders.
Okay.
You can learn more on my site. You can join the interest
and I
list.
did that. Successfully. Good. Okay.
Good.
So I did that because, I have a copy, obviously, but I was like, I want to know all the things you're doing. So I'm going to do that. Okay. That's going to be great. So we can put that particular link on the show notes so that people can make sure that then they can be informed so they it doesn't fall off their radars, because I know we got a lot going on.
Yes.
And then, of course, we'll have the active links when sales become available on the 23rd.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations. There's just so much beauty in what you have done and how you show up in the world. And I'm so thankful to know you.
Thank you. I'm so thankful to know you and what you're doing. And thank you. These conversations fuel me so very much. And that's the whole point. Just all of us talking and sharing our stories this is how we do it.
Exactly. And we'll see those of you listening on the next episode.